This is the Mezger's Only podcast with your host, Aaron, where we talk all things Mezger. All right, welcome to the Mezger's Only, episode 5. We got Kory, Kory as I call him. He does a lot of things, a lot of Mezgers, seen a lot. And the reason I had him on is I want to get the dealer perspective of what's going on in the market, how he buys cars, why he enjoys his 997.1. He loves sunroofs, apparently. We had that conversation beforehand. So how it is to have a GT2 and kind of daily that thing. And I've seen it everywhere. So I know he's been driving it. Yep. I'd like to hear that experience. So we'll kick things off with let's tell us a little bit about yourself as far as Kory goes. Like, how did you get into Porsche in general? I mean, there's always a story. It's probably going to start with Volkswagens, and then we'll see. No. That seems to be the trend, right?
Definitely not Volkswagens. Okay. Yeah,
not a Volkswagen guy. Huh?
No. So I had a '93 Z28 Camaro, so I was super into GM stuff. Yeah. And then really my dream car was pretty much a C5 Z06.
I mean, I relate to that, strangely. I know that. So if you don't know my background, my first car was a 83 El Camino.
Oh, okay.
So we did a little swap on that. Okay. Went from a 305 to a small block 400. Okay. Punched out to a 406 and turbo 400, pause drag rear end, that sort of thing. A little drag. Because I had a drag strip not too far away from where I lived. So that was kind of all the people I dealt with. Yeah. And I was like, all right, this just seems naturally like I'll build a drag style car and then hot rod stuff. Yeah.
Where was that at?
In Holt, Florida. So up in the Panhandle area, near like Destin and Fort Walton Beach.
So it was similar for me. Like we had, so I was down in like Cape Coral, Fort Myers. Okay. So we had the Immokalee drag strip. It was an 1/8 mile.
Same.
So just we'd go street racing and go to the drag strip on Friday nights, and so that's just what I was into. And then I remember my friend's dad. So this was probably like 03, 04. So, the 996s were obviously a couple years old at that point. And my friend's dad bought a 996 turbo. It was a tip. I remember it was a black coupe, but it was a tip. But I remember going for a ride in that car. Yeah. And I remember it was probably the first and maybe only time where I've ridden in a car. And it was like almost like tunnel vision. Like when he floored it, it felt insanely fast. And I'm like, kind of like, whoa, what is this? And so I kind of started, learning about the cars a little bit. And then at the time, it was like, this was like probably pre-YouTube, but like, Street Fire. I don't know if you remember. Oh, yeah. So I just started looking up videos of like modified, like I saw people modifying the 996 turbos, and I'm like, this is like the sickest thing. The cars, seemed like really fast. Thought they looked really cool, sounded good. And then I was working valet in like downtown Orlando, and I say unfortunately for me, but a customer of mine started bringing down a green 997.1 3RS. And so cool. This was like 2008, I think, probably 2008, 2009. So the car was pretty much, almost new at the time.
Oh, nice.
And so I started learning about like track driving and things like that. I'm like, oh, that's what I was kind of like getting over the straight line stuff. And I'm like, I would eventually like to do some track driving. And I think I'd done a little bit at that point, but I'm like, this GT3, like, that's what I want.
A new goal at the time? Like,
yeah,
all right,
and I remember at the time the cars were a little over, MSRP on them was, probably like 130.
Yeah, they weren't crazy. I think, you've probably seen them for maybe a little bit under that.
Right, and they were depreciating at that time. Obviously really bad recession, coming out of 2008, 2009. So I didn't understand the collector car market, so
really, was there? I don't know, for Porsche, I don't know if they even had that mindset.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
With at least those cars.
Right.
And then, that was just like, well, they're a track car.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, these cars are going to be $50,000. So I remember I like set this goal, like, oh, by the time I hit 30, I'm going to have a green GT3 RS.
Not even.
I know. Yeah. And so I was chasing that car, and I was watching the values, and I was just, when the 991s came out, PDK only, that's when we first kind of saw a jump in the 997s. And then when they came back out with a manual in the 991.2, then kind of settled back down a little bit. And I remember like right before COVID, I had, a 996 turbo at the time, and I was just still watching. I was like, the end goal for me was a GT3 997 GT3.
Yeah.
And I was just watching values, and I'm like, I need a couple more years, and then obviously COVID kind of
set a new bar for things.
Yeah. So
you reminded me, the first time that I really saw a 996 turbo, and I don't even think I even realized what it was. It was a TV show. Tanner Faust was on it. It's on Speed.
Yeah.
And they were doing some like autocross course, but then it had a straight line.
Yeah.
This dude it was just like, you just saw it launch, went,
yeah.
And then it had to be crazy boosted because it was glowing orange at the end of this little 8th mile, whatever it was, straight that they had. Because he was like kind of slow through the corners, but then he just passes by like he was standing still. And he was like, oh, is this stock? I was like, yeah, sure, it's stock.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. So that's pretty crazy. Yeah, the first time I dealt with any 996 turbo stuff was really like me personally. Well, I did a little bit with Chad's car, but like my dad like really let me drive it around. Yeah, driving Chad's was different because his was GT2 converted, stage 3 clutch, which wasn't fun for me. Thing was always too hard. I was like, I don't know. I was like, I can drive clutches. Mike was making fun of me for it. I was like, bro, I've been on a farm driving a truck since I was like 9.
Yeah.
Like, I can drive a clutch.
Yeah.
But the stage 3 was just so like picky and like hard to drive. I don't know why you would do that unless you had gobs of power.
Yeah. I think Chad had that car before. I think I followed him on Instagram and we had talked a little bit. Yeah. But I didn't meet him in person until far in when I think he had his GT4 already. Yeah. So
that was a good move.
Yeah.
He was going to have to rebuild that transmission at some point.
Right. Yeah.
That worked out for him.
But yeah, I bought my first Porsche. I was never really interested in, and I kind of tell people this all the time. Like, I love obviously the Porsche brand, but like to me, the turbos and the GT3s have been the only Porsches that have really interested me. Like, you know, the base cars, like they're great cars, but they're not as like hardcore. I mean, I guess obviously if you do a bunch of modifications and stuff, but I really like I've had, you know, E46, E92 M3s. I still like Corvettes. Like, there's just other cars I'd probably have other than, you know, like a Carrera or Carrera S or something. So my first Porsche I bought in 2017 was a 996 turbo.
Okay, nice.
And a manual coupe, seal gray.
Oh.
And it was 57,000 mile car. I bought it in 2017 for $39,000.
Oh, you probably thought you paid up for that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I felt like at the time it was you know, still a little bit of a deal, but like, because they'd started to come up a little bit.
They were probably near the 50s at that point.
Yeah. But like, it was. I loved the car, and I remember, like, I was in the middle of like just kind of trying to focus on my business at the time, which was not the car dealership, and I remember I was like, I told my wife like 2 weeks before that, like, I'm going to take a break from cars. I'm going to focus on work.
Yeah.
And then like this opportunity came
and
up.
Like, and so we're going to do car.
Yeah. So I remember I came home and I'm like, hey, so I have an opportunity to buy a car. And I was like, I think it might be a good idea. But at the time it felt like a lot of money to spend on a car. And she's like, she looked at me. She's like, it's a 911, isn't it? And I'm like, yeah, how did you...
You just tell that in my eyes? Like,
yeah. No, that's what... I was like, how did you know? And she's like, you're just grinning. You're just smiling so much. So
that's cool.
I was like, yeah, it is. It's a 911 turbo. And so, I bought the car and then had that car for a couple years. I sold that in December of 2019.
Okay.
So, right before COVID.
Right before everything just started launching off. And,
right. Yeah. But then I did buy another one. I bought a built... It was a car that Titan had built. Okay. And so it was a built 996 turbo that had a built 3.8 and pretty much everything, you know, done to the car. And so that, you know, it was like I think the car made like 900 wheel. But it was fun, but I was trying to turn it into kind of like I still wanted to do track days with it. So, and I took it to Sebring and did 2 days at Sebring with it. Because it had an AEM Infinity, so you could turn the boost down. Okay. But even on wastegate, it was making like over 600 wheel, and in which the power necessarily wasn't the issue. It was just
they were
big turbos, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they were 1,000 horsepower turbos, so the way that it would hit, it was still,
you'd be hoping that's not going to be hitting all of it in that
right,
corner. You're
right.
Like,
And it was a bit of, and it was wet too, those 2 days. So, yeah. So that was the one and only time I had it, at the track, for road course stuff.
So do you think like the ideal thing is like 500-600 horsepower, like just maybe a little bit of a bump on the track days, but not like, or maybe not even, maybe just keep it kind of stock?
So I think it really is all the power delivery, because there's a guy, I don't know if you ever talked to John Salinger on Run List. He's Powder Hound. You've read some of his posts.
Okay.
He's on every thread on Run List, but he has like a 850 wheel, I think, 996 turbo that he is like a full track car. And he has that car really dialed in, and he's really, really fast in it. So if you have, and he's got like decent sized turbos on it, but he just has it really, really fine tuned for the power delivery. So, but yes, I will say that like most cars, like you've driven, 996 turbos with just a couple bolt-ons, and it's like, and I've driven, like I had a Markski car that had just the billet K16s and a good tune from him on it, and it's like, that car's probably, I think the package is maybe like a 650 horsepower package, but at the wheels, you're probably like, 100 less, maybe high 500 wheel. And I'm like, every time I drove that car, I'm like, this thing's definitely fast enough. And it drove like a stock car, but.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of people need to land and like not build. I could talk to, I think it's Giannis from 9FF, and they're building 1,500 horsepower.
Oh, yeah.
Like, insane stuff.
It's fun, but it's like...
I asked him, too, because I was curious. He's like, they build 30 to 40 motors a year.
Wow.
So they're like... I didn't ask him as full, all Mezgers, but everything I see him build has been a Mezger motor.
Yeah.
So I think that was legit numbers. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
For, a lot of turbo cars out there.
Yeah.
So you got the 996 turbo.
Yeah.
So that started that journey again. So what got you into the dealership part? Like, was that random? Because it seems like you were were always like, you know what? I think car dealer sounds like a good thing to do.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. So I don't, and I obviously, that's what I do for a living, but I don't feel like a car dealer most of the time.
It's not
it's what I do. It's the best way to describe what I do, but it's like, it's just a term that like, obviously people have all sorts of,
it's his hobby, but it's kind of a
yeah. So, I basically, was kind of flipping cars on the side in college, like a lot of people do, just doing cars here and there. And so, a friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, we ended up getting a warehouse space, and we tried to do it as like a legit business, but we were both working full time. So we did it for about a year, but we actually lost money. And so
you're like, well, this is a stupid plan.
Right. It was like, I'll just keep doing it kind of on the side for fun or whatever. So I got involved in an electronics repair franchise, did that, and realized that I still have a small portion of that business for one location, but I realized that I kind of, for me personally, like for me to be motivated, I have to really like enjoy what I'm doing. Yeah. And I still like, cars is just really what I know best and really what my passion is. And so it was still kind of nagging, just like my goal was to get my electronics repair franchised at a point where I could step away and still have that as a little bit of a fallback or, some extra income, but really go back into focusing on cars. And so my plan was to do that in 2020. I'd finally got that business. I was expecting that to take me like a couple years with the electronics repair business. I started that store in 2015, and it wasn't until basically like end of 19 to where I could finally like kind of step away enough. So my plan was to do the dealership in 2020, and then COVID happened, and I'm like, this is maybe a little risky right now. Like, I don't know if people are going to be buying cars. It's obviously, you don't, everybody was like, we didn't know what was going to happen. But my concern at the time was warehouse spaces. I'm like, what if I sign a 2-year lease, and then I could get a warehouse way cheaper? It's just all the, like,
exactly.
You don't know.
Yeah, doing month by month.
Right.
Because you're already not burned, but like you already had a bad taste of like, this could go wrong.
Right. But I felt like I'd learned from that, and I'm like, I know with what my overhead was going to be, I knew that I could manage it if I could turn, a handful of cars a month. And so I ended up, I'm like, you know what, this is my plan. Like, I'm not going to let COVID get in the way of that. I'm sticking to the plan.
Yeah.
And so, I started selling cars with this dealership it was September of 2020. Once I got, because obviously when you take some time to get everything set up. And so, started selling cars then. And it just kind of started slow. And I've really just tried to focus on, organic growth without trying to get, like, there's always opportunity to buy more cars, have more in inventory, hire, more staff,
You get
a
more
bigger space.
You get more overhead.
Right.
And all
and
that.
It's just like, I'm still in that same space. It's like 3,000 square foot, warehouse. You've been there. There's times when it's full and I'm like, which nowadays, most of the time it is full. I can fit about 15 cars. And I'm like,
which is a good amount. I mean,
right.
for a floor plan, and
right.
depending on how you were like looking at it in the beginning, you're probably like, well, this is more than I thought I was going to be selling per month.
Right.
Anyways,
right.
I'm in a good spot.
Yeah. Yeah. So, definitely, probably, sometime in the future we'll get a larger space. But
you're gonna try to get a space like next to, like, is there any availability in the same building that you're in, just to get another?
There is.
That'd probably be the ideal move.
I know. Yeah. And so
or at least seems like it would be.
Yeah. But then it's like, oh well, my rent would obviously double, with what I'm paying now. So it's like I need the space. Like,
well, do you like the location enough to stay there to double your size? Would be the first thought. Like, all right.
The only thing that I don't like about that warehouse that I'm in is how long and narrow it is. Like there's not like
I feel like that's like the standard build out for those houses.
Is.
So like we know what a rectangle looks like, so we're just gonna do that.
Yeah.
And then that's
right. So like if I could have like 5,000 square feet more in like a square, I think that would be
that way you can
ideal.
You kind of park things on the edges and then maneuver things in.
Right.
Yeah. Or have a bunch of lifts, but the lifts wouldn't work for you in that space you currently have, anyways.
Right. Yeah.
That makes sense. Like there's still a bunch of maneuvering and.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing is like maneuvering the cars, and it's like, oh,
you gotta be careful because they're yours till they're not.
I know,
then when they're not yours, you still gotta be ultra careful. So.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh, that car's in the back. We got a detailer coming, or we need to go get that car serviced, or somebody
this is
wants
gonna
to come
take 30
look
minutes.
at it. Yeah,
you don't think it's gonna take 30 minutes to go from this spot to the other 100 feet? Bro.
I know. Yeah, yeah. So it's like that kind of weighing that, how much of a hassle is this, and am I willing to, spend more money to get rid of some of those.
Is this detailer really going to make me that much money?
I know, yeah.
So you do not just like word of mouth stuff. So you do stuff on like Bring a Trailer. You do what's been your experiences with that stuff? Like, do you like doing that? Do you like the auction style? Do you like just doing it the way you kind of just here and there and consignment stuff? Like, what's your favorite flavor of how you do it? I guess.
So I guess I really do like the Bring a Trailer auction platform. I've tried a couple of the other ones, and they just don't have the reach. They don't have the community. They don't have most of the time. They don't have the bids that Bring a Trailer does. So the community on Bring a Trailer can be good and can be bad.
It's been there the longest too. I think that's what a lot of people like. It's longevity means something in the end, and you can tell. You can do the numbers yourself. Like you can see, like I would say, like a 30% plus boost between like a P-car market. Like you can see the difference in numbers a lot of times.
Yeah. So I feel like you can have good results on Bring a Trailer. And this is not just Bring a Trailer, because I am now a Bring a Trailer local partner, which basically is a facility that can help with auctions from as little as if somebody, like an owner of a car, wants to run their auction themselves and they just need it photographed, or they just need something reconditioned on the car, they can reach out to us and we can help with that. Or we can handle the auction start to finish for them.
Cool.
So I am biased towards Bring a Trailer because, like I said, I tried them all, and that's the one I like the best. And so, but there is a lot of like time and effort that go into having a successful Bring a Trailer auction as opposed to shooting a car and putting it up on Auto Trader. So I kind of weigh those options, like that. It's really specific to the car.
Do you have a price point or anything you look at for that? Like, all right, this is going to Auto Trader because this is going to do what it's going to do. You don't think it's going to, like, how do you weigh your options between, like, this is going to auction and this is going to, like that?
So yeah, it really comes down to like how I think the car will do, and also what I think the reserve, because a lot of people think you can set your reserve on Bring a Trailer, but you can request a reserve.
So they do an analysis as well. So
Right.
So they don't get crazy stuff.
Right,
And they
right.
Get, yeah.
Because they don't want a bunch of no sales. And so you request a reserve, and then they either approve it or they say, well, based on past, recent auctions, we think that this is, more in line with the car selling. And so you either have to agree to it. Sometimes you can do a little bit of negotiating on the reserve, but ultimately they have the final say.
So they control the market.
Yeah.
Essentially. So
Yeah.
anything, if you complain about those Mezger prices being up there, let's bring a trailer for the auctions.
Yeah. So, and also with the volume that I do, I typically I do have a full-time employee now. It was pretty much just me with some part-time help up until March.
I was going to ask you, like, when did that flip too? Because I'm sure you were just probably running yourself back and forth and everywhere, trying to be selling stuff, picking stuff up.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's, again, it kind of goes back to like, did I want help earlier? Yeah. But it's like, I want to make sure that,
Yeah, you also want to make money for the family.
Right.
Like,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be really nice right now, but
yeah,
those numbers look way better with just me.
Yeah. Exactly. So, and obviously like in any business having, employees and staff and stuff, like that's typically can be the hardest part of the business, is managing people. And so I wanted to make sure, and I'm going to be working, closely with that person. And so I wanted it to be, somebody I could trust and be the right person. So I wasn't like really in a rush for that.
Yeah.
And so, that's been like helpful, having that help. But I typically sell anywhere from, I don't know. So like in 2024, I think I did like 75 cars. And that was really just, with having a photographer come in and shoot the cars, and I was basically doing.
Did you see a big jump, like, because that's I guess that's not a decision that everybody makes. So, like, to get a pro photographer and kind of go through that. Did you see a jump in sales, or did you have somebody that you used? Did you do stuff yourself?
I did it myself for a couple years.
Did you see a difference, like as soon as you started doing that, or there was the difference for the posting once you started doing that, plus like really looking at your copy, what you're putting down for.
I think for Instagram, I mean, we do, I don't do like TikTok, or I don't even have TikTok. Like, I don't know.
I'll have that after.
But yeah, just we just do it on Instagram, Facebook. It automatically posts to Facebook, but there's barely any engagement on Facebook. So it's mainly just Instagram. Definitely seen a jump in the Instagram numbers, like, once we really started to do a push for that. But as far as the sales go, I don't know if I, noticed any sort of difference with having, I mean, my photos were like good enough for Auto Trader. I mean, they compress the images and stuff anyway. So, but yeah, definitely having for like social media stuff, definitely, has helped for sure.
So how did you get, so now we can roll into, like, we talked about business stuff. 997.1 that you currently have. How did you get that? Where did you find it? Were you looking for it? Did it find you?
Yeah. So, a good friend of mine named Dale. I don't know if I don't think you've met him, but basically, I had a silver 997.1 turbo manual coupe, and there was the GT3 that I now own was up in Ohio, and he was already talking to that guy looking at that car, and it had a kind of a funky. It had a aftermarket wheels on it, like the cheap HRE wheels, and it had .2 bumper and taillights on it. So it looked a little like funky, and the pictures were really bad.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I think I'm gonna go buy this GT3, but he saw this turbo listed locally, and he lives like 10 minutes from my warehouse. So he's like, let me just go check out this turbo. So he came and drove it. He actually had a PPI done on it, and he's like, I really like the turbo.
He was getting serious, it sounds like.
Yeah, but he's like, I think I'm going to go check out this GT3. I'm like, dude, I don't blame you, man. Like, yeah, go for it. And at the time, I had my built motor 996 turbo. So he flies up to Ohio, buys the GT3, drives it back. And it was like it had a little under 50,000 miles at the time, 47 or 48. And so he has driver's choice to do the coolant line pinning and everything. Had the car for about a year, and now at this point, like, we start hanging out, like we're good friends and everything. Zweck is getting in .2 3RS.
Yeah.
So he ends up putting a deposit on that car, and so he's like, yeah, I'm gonna get this 3RS, and so I'm like, well, I want your GT3, so I think it's time that. And I still my business was still only a couple years old at that point, and so even at the time, I'm like, this is does it make the most sense financially to buy this car? I should be focusing on my business, but I'm like,
But if I don't,
I don't, yeah. And I was actually having the conversation with my wife last night. I'm like, the 997s, even from when I bought at the time, it was like peak, COVID market or whatever. And the 997s have continued to, push upwards from there still. It's like the only car that's still doing that, really, for the most part.
And it's crazy because you have the Halo cars, like we were just talking, or at least I was making fun of it because I see the post everywhere for the $1 million 4.0. And like even behind the scenes of that, I had some, I was talking with a couple of guys from Instagram. They're like, well, actually, that may be a little cheap, even for the mileage. They might be like 1.5, and then PTS is 2 something. I even told that to one of our local dealers because he had driven one of the guys that buys cars from them. He's got a warehouse in an undisclosed location.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I saw a 4.0 pull up. I was like, oh, okay. And then I saw Mike get out of it. I was like, man, these things have gotten crazy. I can't believe how expensive they were. And he was like, he looked at me I guess he hadn't checked the market. I was like, bro, these things are 1.4. He's like,
yeah.
And then he just kind of giggled. He's like, well, I got to drive it from here. He's like, he was kind of excited about driving it. But yeah.
Yeah, I haven't driven a 4-liter.
But the 4 liters and all that's raising these prices so much. But the difference, the real gap now is 3RS at $400,000 seems like a deal.
Yeah.
Instead of spending 1.4. And then PTS 2.7, 2.8.
Yeah. It's crazy.
That gap is nuts. And then now 400, these cars, just regular GT3s are going to be deep 2s, deep 3s soon.
And it's if you look at, I haven't been in the Porsche game that long relative to a lot of guys, but you talk to guys that were heavy into the air-cooled cars and stuff and have been buying 911s for years. They say at about the 15-year mark is when the cars are fully depreciated, and then they typically start to, kind of go back up from there.
Yeah.
And I think the 997s, we're at that point, right when COVID, started, and then and now they've kind of started that climb up. But if you talk to anybody that had these cars when they were new, and then moved on to the 991s and 992s, they still say oh, I miss mine, I love that car. A lot of those guys, say that. And the 997s, the size, the hydraulic steering, obviously the history, of the engines, going to win at Le Mans. And, there's just so many factors. The cars are, we've both had seat time in the later cars, and it just, I don't get bored driving those cars, but my car
compliant. I think that's the one tagline you could say that, and that's you don't know that until you drive something that's got. I guess, and then you made me think of this too. These are the closest to the race cars. I feel from all right, this car to race car, real close as far as maybe not exactly the raw feel, but it's just dialed in different.
Yeah. Yeah, and I drive, I typically, I don't have a ton of 991s, in inventory, but I just sold a 991.2 GT3 PDK. I had another one, prior to that. And it's I drive that car, for 30 minutes. I'm like, okay, cool. I've had my fix. But my car, every time I get in it, it's I legitimately don't get bored in that car. And I'm excited to drive it every time. And it's really the only car, that I've driven that still gets me.
Yep, and we're going for a drive.
Yeah, it gets me excited. I'll do a mountain trip, and I remember coming home. I sent my friend a video. I was pulling into my house, and I was I just did 1,600 miles in this car in the past 4 days, and I was I could get in the car and turn around and go and do it again. I'm not bored with, I'm not bored with the car at all.
So you got the car with the .2 bumper, .2 headlight. So what did you? So you got here all right, well, this is cool. I'm sure you got it for a deal that time, or a decent deal.
It was an okay deal. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. I didn't like steal the car or anything, but like, yeah, it was a fair deal at the time. I mean, I paid. So this was 20. When did I buy that car? 2022. Yeah, because I think I'm coming up on 3 years. And at the time, I paid 120 for it for a 50,000 mile.
Which everybody would say that's a little bit higher mileage car.
Right. But I knew the coolant lines were done. It was done at a shop that I trust. Like, and it was, that service had just been done like a couple thousand miles prior to that. So,
that's cool.
And so I've since put a lot more money into that car.
I was gonna say, like, what was that? Your initial plan was like, all right, I know I want to do this to it, or did you...
I wanted carbon buckets. Probably not the most necessary mod. I've just always loved the seats, so I got lucky. I did get lucky with a set of carbon buckets. As far as modifications, I changed up the exhaust, and then I wasn't really like, oh, these are things that I have to do. I had this conversation with some guys, a couple months ago where we were driving our cars back to back and stuff. The cars are so good out of the box. Like, there's obviously upgrades that you can make, and we spend a lot of money on modifications.
Just because we think we need them. Yeah.
But it's like, we're taking the car from like, maybe 95% to like 98% or something. You know what I mean? It's like very, very small, improvements over like a stock car. It's things that we notice, and it's like, and it's fun to do it. But like, there wasn't anything where like, oh, I have to modify this car. I was kind of forced to do it because I had a gearbox issue, and so ended up sending that out, had that rebuilt, and then at the time I did the 4L clutch and flywheel.
That makes a difference. So I had a friend of mine, we did the last podcast together, I should have put a GoPros on, because he hadn't driven this car in forever, and then I drove his, and I didn't ever drive it through 3RS at that point. And he was like, it was cool. So we're just driving towards hit a red light, we stop, he just looks at me, he's like, man, your car's fast. I'm like, well, I do have a 4.0 clutch and flywheel in there, so I mean, maybe that makes I was like, and my exhaust a lot louder. I think you're just getting a sense of the feels, and that's it. Like, it's just it's more a sense of like, oh, that is fast.
Well, that was he had a 3RS.
Yeah.
So the main difference is obviously the gearing.
Yeah.
And so technically his car should feel faster.
Because he's got a little bit better gearing.
Right. Yeah. And I did that gearing in my car.
Yeah.
But like driving the car, but again, like driving them back, like you notice it, but it's not like you don't get back into a regular GT3 that doesn't have the RS gearing, and you're like, oh, like this feels crappy or anything, like.
No, it's gonna feel similar. That was my thing too. I was like, do you think it's worth it? GT3, like just a regular GT3 to an RS, and I'm like, maybe. I mean, I can see the extra width in the front for like track use.
Right.
Maybe that's what I want, but I've never been like a at the track person. I don't know that I would be at the track all the time person in a 3RS these days anyways.
So I've transacted probably two of some of the cheapest RSs that have transacted between last year and this year. 997.23 RSs. And just because awesome cars, the cars were in really good condition, but they both had miles on them. Both had about 45,000 miles on them, which is high for, high,
it might, well, I mean, it sounds like this is about to start to be the average of these cars.
Right, yeah.
Because people are driving them still.
Yeah. And people are wanting to drive them, But those were both cars where I'm like, do I keep this car? Like, and ultimately, I think that the .2 RS, I've always preferred the .1s personally. Even the RSs, that's just the one that I fell in love with. Like I said, that green car. But like, I think the .2 RSs are gonna all be $500,000 cars regardless of mileage in the not too distant future. Obviously, like what we talked about with the 4-liter cars. And so my thought is like, well, am I going to see this car in 3 to 5 years, and they're $500,000 and I could have bought one, for like, mid to high twos, whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm in a unique position where I can buy the cars and,
just sit and just
take
chill
the
with
expensive
it.
cars to Cars and Coffee or whatever. But like, I joke around, I call my .1 the beater, because like that's the car I can put miles on and I can use, and I don't,
Which is great.
Yeah, I don't stress too much about it. But like, the RSs are going to continue to, outpace obviously the regular GT3s from that collectability standpoint. Like, from a driving, like, experience, the cars aren't that much different.
Yeah.
But from a collectability and numbers standpoint, like, yeah, the RSs are always going to, way outpace the regular GT3s.
And you're already seeing people starting to do this. And I met a guy randomly. He was toasted at the Macoma thing when we were at Amelia.
Yeah.
And I was talking to him, and I was like, "Oh, nice GT3. Oh, that's cool." He's like, "Well, that's the one I drive, but I have an RS that I don't drive at home." So he bought a GT3 just to drive. And so, like, is that going to be the new move if you got some money in the bank account? Just like, all right, buy this for the investment. Yeah. Let that chill. Get a GT3 and have the same driving experience or close enough. And
I mean, I do the math. Like, my car, I don't even know what my car is worth now. I mean, obviously I have way more into it than what it's worth at this point. But, like, doing the math of, like, okay, my .1's worth this much.
Yeah.
How am I going to feel even if I could swing an RS and I'm up in the mountains and ripping on it? Like, am I going to be, like, stressed about it? Am I going to be, and I think that, like, if a car is worth double, like, it's going to, I feel like,
you're going to know it, and it's going to weigh.
Yeah, you're going to think about it,
It's going to weigh it. It's going to play in no matter how much money you have. It's still whatever the possession you're in.
Right.
At that time is going to be like, well, I do know it's, it's now $500,000 this point, or $750,000, and this guy in a Harley that's $30,000 is coming around this corner. He doesn't care.
Right, yeah.
Like, is it now am I putting it in danger more often because I'm trying to enjoy the car?
Yeah. And it's even, because there's guys that got into these cars, like Vin. He got into his car really well, and it's worth a lot more now. But it's like, the problem is, you're into the car cheap, but, like, the cost to replace it is, so if something were to happen to that car, you can't just go find, obviously we know the production numbers and how low they are on these cars. Like, you can't just go find another one easily. So
I don't know. There's a lot of gray, black, red scripts for some reason. I've seen a lot of those lately. I feel like that you might be. I mean, if you're looking for that exact spec, maybe you got better luck as far as the ratio goes. Still 600 made. Still like still low production there. Yeah. So maybe you just get a GT3 at the end of the day, I guess.
Yeah. And I know, but I mean, I've talked to guys too that have RSs, and they're kind of like, they're like passively looking for, regular GT3s, because they're just like, the car's worth, so much now. And
keep seeing these podcasts talking about how much these things are worth.
Right. Yeah.
We had a guy that he's got a pumpkin locally, and we were just chit chatting. He was like, "Yeah, he picked this up for like 90."
Yeah.
Back in the day, I was like, I don't even want to. I was like, cool.
Yeah.
Drive it more.
Yeah.
Like, put it. I mean, you can put 1 million miles in that car, and it's like you're always gonna make money. Like, that's I think is a good point. It's like, if you bought right and you can put miles in your car, just drive your car. You're never gonna lose money at that point. I mean, say you only made 20, 30 grand on it, you didn't double your money. All right.
Right.
Still made money.
Right.
But you got to enjoy it way more than it sitting around. And I think there's almost that conundrum, and that's where people lose out. Yes, it is an investment, but it's not meant to be an investment.
I'm very grateful. I mean, I know I said it earlier, but, like, my dream was to one day be able to afford a C5 Z06, so I'm like,
I think you're there.
But, like, I'm super grateful to be able to use my car, because for a long time, when I would buy any car that I had, whether it was an M3 or whatever, I was very stressed about putting miles on the car, because I really didn't have the money to buy it. I was just pretty creative in financing the car and knowing I could make the payments for 12 months, and then I got to get back out of it. Yeah, and that's kind of like also like honed my skills a little bit on buying cars right and things like that. And so,
and you're giving yourself that leeway. Okay, well, I know I have this many months before this needs to go.
Right.
So now you're like, all right, you start seeing the car more on Instagram, things like that. Or Kory needs this thing gone. So you have and that's cool though, that you give yourself a framework to like.
Well, that was like back when I just buying personal cars, for myself, and like, I just wanted to own the cars, and so that's how I afforded to buy them. But now, that I have, my GT3. And I'm just grateful to be able to drive the car and put miles on it. And it kills me that I see people, I'm like, you have, like, arguably the best driver's car potentially ever produced. And, I'm biased, but that's my opinion.
I mean, you can be biased. This whole thing is built on biases.
So, but yeah, I mean, and people are just like, oh, they look at, the values, and they, want to they'll let it sit and don't want to put too many miles on it. And I'm like, dude, you're missing out on so many, just making memories and experiences.
Yeah, I mean, it's yours.
Yeah.
You need to do something with it.
Yeah.
So you changed the bumpers, the taillights, the buckets. You said you put an exhaust on it. What'd you go? I know you've had several different exhausts, and we've kind of talked about this.
Yeah, so right now it's just I know everybody rips the side mufflers off, and my car actually didn't even have side mufflers on it when I got it.
Yeah.
Right now I have stock headers with side mufflers and just a center delete.
I was hoping you didn't have side mufflers because I have side mufflers sitting in my storage unit that I don't want.
Oh, really?
So yeah.
Yeah, so I have a couple sets of side mufflers, but I'll buy them off you.
Okay.
But,
Yeah, we moved recently, so like this thing is like stuff. I was like, I got plenty of room in the storage unit. No, no, I don't. And I was like, what's in here? I was like, oh, well,
Side
never gonna use these again.
Yeah, so I've driven a bunch of different exhaust setups, and the one that I've liked the most so far has been headers, specifically catless headers with side mufflers and a center delete.
Nice.
Like with the valves closed, it's like super quiet and you can cruise on the highway, and then when the valves are open, it's basically like straight pipe sounding.
Nice.
So, but the downside to that is that the side mufflers are, obviously heavy. There are some center.
I mean, these cars aren't that heavy, so it's.
I know, and that's and people say like the heat from the side mufflers if you're like tracking the car.
Oh, then you're gonna hurt the front because you're gonna get extra heat because you're tires.
I don't know how much.
Like that,
I mean, Porsche made them with side mufflers, and I don't know. I feel like
the Cup cars run with mufflers on there, so.
Yeah.
I mean, they've obviously engineered it to run for several hours at a time at like the highest of RPMs that you're not going to be.
Right.
I mean, maybe in the mountains. We kind of get after it, so I get that. But like, I don't think it's going to be any time like where it's going to be that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Like, all right, I noticed. Got to get rid of those side mufflers. Had too much heat.
And I've had so we have a red dot 2 that has the Dundon catted headers, and it had their crack pipe.
Yeah. That thing's heart shaking.
Gosh. Yeah, that car is just. I mean, I know they make a great product, and it just was too loud for us, and so we're switching the exhaust up on that car. But I do have a set of catless headers on order, so
nice.
For off-road use only. Only at the track.
Just go on the track.
Yeah, but so I'm gonna run that probably with side mufflers. Another option too. There's some center mufflers, so you can do the valved side deletes, and then you can do a center muffler with little mini mufflers, to where when the valves are closed, it routes through the small
I think
mufflers.
I have AWE switch path on mine.
Okay.
And I have valves.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably basically how it works. I have no sides, obviously.
Yeah. So I may mess around with that a little bit more.
I don't know that it makes a big difference. Like it just takes out. I don't know the high end tone, like that. What if that high end tone is like?
Right.
I guess maybe it's a drone, but just cruising, just chill.
Yeah.
Well, then you can definitely tell when you open them up. It's like, all right, there's a little bit there to that, back purples and things like that.
But yeah, like I said, that's what with the factory side mufflers. It's a huge difference in going from loud to quiet, which is nice.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. Gonna keep messing with it. But
I haven't done headers yet. I know that I want to do headers, but I also don't want to break header bolts either because I feel like that's always a thing.
Yeah.
I feel like that's always a story. Like change the headers and snap this off and get this down. So and if there are stock, so they have cats. I don't know what's left of those cats.
Right. Yeah.
Probably nothing.
Yeah.
So I kind of like, well,
yeah.
Do I need to change them up right now? Probably not. So.
I can let you know where I'm ordering my headers from. So,
dude, Mike got his from like American or some place I'd never heard of, and it was like the whole set was like $1,400.
Yeah,
I was like, well, that would have been cool.
Yeah, but they stopped making them, right?
Yeah,
or something?
Yeah, they did. I think he got the last set. Yeah. That's classic Mike.
Yeah,
he's like, oh, bro, sorry, 1-1 over here.
Yeah,
I was like, but yeah, that's
Yeah, I feel like the ones that I'm getting are basically.
Well,
they're not too expensive.
I mean, Kevin can always get them fabbed up, but there wouldn't be a big. I mean, Bert can do anything.
Yeah.
So that's always a possibility.
Yeah.
I know. I wanted to kind of. I don't know if I'm kind of manufacturing parts, so we'll see. We'll see where that goes.
Okay.
And doing some other things. So I got to show you some. I made a little search engine for Mezger stuff.
Oh, nice.
So I'll show you that later. But yeah, so you got the Dot 1, and now you've had the chance to own the Dot 2. Do you think you'll ever go Dot 2 GT3? Do you think there's any reason? Did you think like, well, these are the same cars? Do they feel like they drive the same? Because they do have revisions, but
Right. So it really comes down to personal preference.
okay.
I remember reading online people saying the differences in the character of the engines between the 3.6 and 3.8. And I always thought that was just people like, obviously the 3.8 would be better, so they're just making themselves feel better because they have a 3.6. But after spending a lot of seat time in both cars, like the 3.6 obviously doesn't have the same torque, but it does feel different up top. Like it's a little bit more of like it just kind of has a different characteristic to the way that it revs up top.
Yeah.
So I do really like, the 3.6. I've always preferred the aesthetics of the Dot 1. And then also having 5 lug is nice, not having center lock.
That's not talked about enough, but yes, that would be great.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate that they wanted to go motorsport and put center lugs, but
yeah.
Looks cool.
Yeah.
It's not cool for anybody else having to take these things on and off. And then High Torque hasn't made anything cheaper to take these things off. And nobody's replicated that, which is amazing to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be, 5 lug would be nice.
Yeah. Yeah, so I expected to maybe get into a Dot 2 eventually. But after, spending some good seat time in both generations and stuff, like, I'm pretty much married to my car at this point.
Yeah.
I have, like I said, I have a bunch into it.
You got it the way you want it.
I ended up doing full RSS suspension. I did Olin's.
I did. How did you? Was that a big giant? Was it a giant difference?
That I noticed quite. So the doing the the coilovers and then doing all the arms and everything was definitely noticeable. Just my car had, by the time I switched the shocks out, it was like 56,000 miles, something like that. Maybe even a little bit more. So that made a huge difference, and just being, more compliant over bumps.
Like you said, the dampers make. If you've not done coilovers in your car, and
it's worth it.
It's definitely worth it at the time because, especially with anything you can tweak, which I don't think there's not one on the market that you can't tweak. Maybe the road and drags may be set the way they are, but it doesn't matter. They're still softer than they are. Stock for sure.
Yeah. And the car I feel like the turn-in, I picked up just a lot of, and obviously some of that's alignment, but the alignment had been done on my car, but I just feel like it's really, really predictable. It turns in really well now. One thing I definitely noticed with doing the control arms and everything is like, when you set the car like mid-corner and you're kind of like, maintaining and kind of starting to get on the throttle a little bit, you kind of feel that little bit of like
the
wiggle.
Rotation.
Well, like almost like a little bit of like the car's kind of like wiggling a little bit, like mid corner. After the control arms like that.
Just stopped.
Yeah, that pretty much went away. So,
cool.
But yeah, so suspension, clutch and flywheel, did the RS gearing. Gonna probably, like I said, I have those headers on order. I did the carbon buckets. I will say a nerdy thing that I was able to find a steering wheel out of a green 3RS.
Okay,
it's in my car. So the only difference is the RSs have the yellow stripe on the wheel.
The 12 o'clock.
But I'm essentially driving. I got my hands on a 3RS wheel when I'm driving my car. So.
Well, and it was out of a green one, which is the first thing you saw. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't. Other than that, there's really just kind of little things after the exhaust is done, that and just obviously keeping up with the maintenance. So.
Nothing draws you back to the turbos, or you think you had that?
The turbo cars are good Florida cars. Yeah. Like obviously we got a lot of straight roads.
A lot of straight roads.
Yeah. So that's what I tell people is like, I love the turbo cars. So that GT2. I can kind of go into that a little bit. Yeah.
Not everybody's got experience with GT2s.
Yeah. So I've been chasing a 997 GT2, not for myself, but for inventory for 3-4 years.
I had gel with that probably 3 years ago. I knew where one was sitting in Ocala.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Where did that car go?
I don't know. I don't know where it went, but I think it was the most highly optioned GT2 ever.
Oh, wow.
It had full carbon everything, interior, like full leather, guards red.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Dang.
I'll show you pictures.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been chasing one, but like I'm also not like some of the big dealers. There's not a lot of dealers. There's a handful of dealers that like do a lot of Mezger cars,
Yep.
but they typically specialize in the
Yeah, you got two. So there's Merritt and
right.
then Ryan.
Yeah,
and
Friedman.
then, that's pretty
And then
much the
Grand Prix as well
Oh,
in
yeah.
Portland. They usually have a good amount of them, but like they typically those dealers are obviously usually focus on like the really low mileage.
Does it have like
cars
5 miles?
Right,
And is it going to be worth the most?
Which
ever?
is like
Yeah.
that stuff is cool. I don't hate on that
Yeah.
stuff. Like I do sell some cars like that, but like the things that get me excited is when the 3RS that I sold in April, like the 45,000 mile car, the guys put 1,500 miles on it already.
That's what I was going to say too. Is
So-
like when we let off with like your sell cars, it's like it's enthusiast style
Right.
stuff, which is cool.
Yeah, because that's what I get. Like
Yeah.
when somebody buys a car and they're telling me, yeah, I'm going to drive this, car, like that gets me excited, So, but yeah, the GT2, I've been chasing one. And so I finally bought one last month. And a good friend of mine, Christian up at PA Euros, I've been telling him to I'm like, yo, you should get one, you should get one, you should get one. And so when I bought that car, the car was coming out of Alabama. And then he's like, well, sell it to me. And I'm like, no, I haven't even I've never driven one. Like I haven't even.
Yeah, let me get a little taste of it. Yeah.
So he didn't really let up. And so I'm like, okay, so I sold him the car.
Okay.
And I was excited for him. I was a little bit bummed, that I didn't even get to drive the car. He gets it and he's telling me like, oh, the car's amazing. And he's sending me videos and driving it.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, and I'm like, cool, man. I'm happy for you. Like, I still, I don't have one. Well, like, it was less than a week goes by.
Yeah.
And then there was another one that was basically coming available through, like, basically like a wholesaler that buys exotics and stuff. And so I actually was at Smokey's at Flat Rock. And I didn't tell anybody I was going to try and, win that car.
Yeah.
And so I like got up at lunch and just kind of like walked away and I was bidding on my phone. Fortunately, I did have a backup. I had my employee ready to bid on the car.
Oh yeah.
But because I didn't know what type of cell. Usually at racetracks you have terrible cell signal.
But yeah, that's a good idea. I wouldn't even.
Yeah, because but like for whatever reason, I asked one of the employees and I'm like, we're out in the middle of nowhere. How do you guys have such good cell signal? And they're like, I don't know. It's just good here.
They probably put up a tower.
They
They probably had to
something.
put up because in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Normally they probably paid to have a cell tower.
Yeah, I
put in.
feel like they had to. So I ended up winning the car. And so, super.
Were you
stoked on it.
this is my goal? Like I'm getting this car, or was it kind of like if I get it, cool?
I didn't know. There's just so little comps. I didn't know. A lot of times, like people think like if you have access to like a wholesale auction, you get all these deals.
What were you thinking the numbers were going to be on it? Like what were you like? Oh, I'm not going to pay. Like what was your not kind of your?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that car is probably it's definitely worth like somewhere mid to high twos because so the one that I bought was a 33,000 mile car, and there's really none of them under 300 grand usually.
Yeah.
Like when they're listed, granted they are lower mile cars, but
Again, you found an enthusiast spec GT2.
Right,
like
right.
when does that happen?
right,
Like,
yeah.
that's cool.
So yeah, I ended up winning the car, and so
What color? What color is this one?
black.
Oh, so it's
Black as well.
So you know what? That's what I was like. Oh, he's had this GT2. He's really driving it. So I I saw it on Instagram. I was like, oh, okay. So I thought it was the same car.
Well, so Christian's has silver wheels.
Okay.
And then the one that I've had now for probably about a month has black. So they're black wheels, but then they have like the silver on the outside.
Okay.
Like the two-tone wheel. And so that's a car that like it wouldn't make sense for, I guess again going back to financially keeping a car that expensive that I use sparingly, but it's another car like that. I mean, we got less than 200 delivered to North America. So,
the odds you see another one is going to be, well, besides, in Christian, so that's.
Right, yeah. And you look at like 993, like people have been really focused on the naturally aspirated cars, the GT3s, but you look at like 993 GT2s, I mean, those are $1 million+ cars.
Well, then.
And you look at how low the production numbers are on the GT2s, and to me, the cars are still way undervalued. And you know, obviously, it's only a matter of time until they have gone up like everything else. But I still think that there's a lot of upside.
The 2RS is going to help with that.
Yeah.
Like with as much as it keeps going up in value, because I mean, honestly, it's the most powerful, lightest weight version that there is.
Right.
Even though there's a 4.0 out there, which is kind of it's still the numbers make sense for all those cars to raise up in value.
Yeah.
I mean, a 2RS would be pretty sweet.
Yeah. Maybe you can find. I need one with 30,000 miles on it.
Or more. Like, who knows who's putting that kind of mileage on those cars? I only know there's a guy in Belgium, Liam. I met him once. I can't remember his name right about, but he's got the guy with the camper tent in the GT2.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got to have a pretty high mileage GT2 at this point.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and he's had that car for a long time. He actually came. He has a place in Orlando.
Okay.
Or his parents do. And so he actually came over and we did some photos and stuff. I had a yellow 355, and then he drove my GT3. And so that's I've been following him, for a long time. Just he cruises around in the GT2 with the camper and everything. I'm like, it's so awesome.
that would be pretty cool. Now you can do the same thing.
Yeah.
Just taking a smoke. He's like, boy, I don't need a hotel, boys. I got the camp. I got the camper on top.
Yeah. But the GT2 is people have asked me how it drives and everything, and it really does feel like a GT3 with the suspension and rear wheel drive and everything, just with a turbo engine. And so
I got to drive the red one, so they're fast.
They're fast.
Just deceptively, I think that's not the turbos get a bad rap, but the turbos always get looked at as just being kind of chill, not really crazy. I mean, you can build them up, but they're quick cars and they're capable.
Yeah.
It doesn't say GT3 on the back, but boy, is it
and I love the wing and everything, and the front bumper, this. That's just definitely a car that I love, looking at as well. The only thing that is lacking a little bit is on the turbo cars is just the RPM. I think Redline's at 67 or 6800.
You need that close to 9,000.
Yeah. So you floor it and you're just it goes through gears really fast. You just floor it second, third, whatever, and it goes through them quick. But it just you can't ring it out.
Really, it's now talking to you. That kind of is blending both the best of your worlds, because you get your turbo car and you get your GT3 feels in there. The same thing.
And people have asked would you want to sell your GT3, and keep the GT2? And I'm like, I still think the naturally aspirated engine is still it's the sound is a big part of the experience.
100%.
And it's obviously having that high red line, is awesome. And Sunil has his 996 GT3 and his 997 GT2.
Everybody's doing this. It seems like.
And he said, he's had his for a little while, but he's he said the same thing. He's like, the GT2 is awesome, but if I had to choose one, it's going to be the GT3.
It's more emotions in that in the 3 than there is the 2.
Yeah.
It's still a turbo car at the end of the day.
Right.
I guess. So it kind of not that it's muted, but like you said, just things you don't think you like revving it out because you can.
Right.
And that sound is kind of close, but not the same.
It's really, if you can swing it and I guess this was part of when I'm doing the math in my head on an RS, I'm like, would I rather have a 3RS over my car, or spend the money and keep my car and just add a turbo car, to the equation?
But that makes sense. It's a good argument, and like we just talked about, it's different enough where I think the turbo car and the 3 makes more sense than bumping up to a 3RS, because then in your head you're gonna be like, this is better,
right?
Because you spent more.
Right.
No matter if on paper back to back it's virtually the same car.
Yeah.
You're going to justify it some way, but I think that's kind of a cool thing. You can do both, and you can talk about it. A lot of people don't have both that have driven back to back and lived with it. That's the other thing too. People are like, cool, I drove one. Like me, I drove for part of the day. It's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't get to live with it, so I don't know what would I really want to live with this thing? Is it as chill as I think it would be? Is it Andre every day?
No, I mean, people complain about the clutches in the GT3s and the GT2s. Like, they're heavy. You know, it doesn't bother me, but people.
Oh, there's not an assist in the GT2s, is there?
No, it's the same as the GT3.
Okay, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I guess I just didn't think. I didn't think it's been a long time since I drove the car.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
So the turbo clutches are super light. But yeah, the GT2 is the same as the GT3, so it's not assisted. The car's not like people keep, you got to be careful in that car, and it's the Widowmaker.
That's the first thing.
It's not
bro, you come off that, you got to come off throttle. That's still building boost. You got to be careful. It's going to be crazy.
The car does not lose. I mean, they make a lot more torque than GT3, but like that car doesn't. I mean, the 997 they had it pretty dialed in.
They did have traction control, so
right.
It's not like it's 996 territory where.
But it's not even it doesn't even try to break traction really or anything.
No,
Even if you're hammering. I mean, if you're really really pushing on the track or whatever, it's gonna step out on you. But just around on the street and stuff,
so
even flooring it through corners, it doesn't try to just slide on you like crazy or anything. So.
Well, I mean, they did manufacture it with that amount of horsepower, and I would have figured. I guess that's not really thought about in the sense of if they made it this way, they're not going to make it crazily dangerous because they couldn't sell the car.
Yeah,
it's not.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you could always be stupid and dump the clutch somewhere,
right?
Or really just hit a corner too hot.
Yeah,
that's probably mainly your fault. not the car. Bro, it's making booze. It's crazy.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely a cool car, and super happy that found a couple of them randomly in a row.
Cool.
And so, we'll see. That car again. I will sell the car, for the right number. But
so what's next after that one, or do you
just find it?
There's only two kinds. You got 3RS and a 2RS.
Yeah,
if you're gonna keep going down that route.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be anything different. I just, it's just as exciting to find, even if
or different color, different.
Just to hold I don't know. That's
what would you try to find for if you got to find another GT2? What colors would you look for? White. Okay.
if the one I had now was white and matched my GT3,
that'd be
it would be really tough to let it go. I used to I just felt like I got the best deals on silver cars for a long time. Even before I had the dealership, for my personal cars, I just had a lot of silver cars. And now almost everything that I have is white, and I've kind of fallen for white cars. And so I think if it was a white GT2 would be that one would be hard to let go. So, and I used to even Guards Red. I thought I wanted a Guards Red car, but just white's kind of in person, I guess, been my favorite.
That's cool.
So,
yeah, that would make sense if you wanted to match it to the dot one.
Yeah.
Well, I think we talked about everything I wanted to catch up with you. Just see about the business because we'd never really talked about that before. And then also wanted to see what the GT2 was. Yeah. How you were liking that. I didn't know there was two GT2s, which that's even cooler. Yeah. So I think we're good. I can wrap up, and it was good talking to you.
Cool. Man. Yeah, definitely.
So, glad to have you on.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
See you. Thank you for listening to the Mezger's Only podcast. Please check us out on Instagram at Mezger's Only or on the website at mezgersonly.com. See you next episode.